Hi, this is Katie with Katie's Homeschool Cottage again, and today we're going to be talking about how to teach writing to your middle and high schoolers. Now, this is something that can be very intimidating to parents and then also to the kids and even sometimes to teachers. But after 30 years, over 30 years in education and homeschooling, I have discovered a way to break up the writing process into small bites so that the child can sit down and understand the different processes into actually writing a paper. And the trick is cutting it down into those small bites so that they can digest that portion of it and then move on to the next step. The other trick is to not concentrate on creative writing if your child is not a natural writer and they find it difficult to write in the first place. The first thing that you want to focus on is expository writing. Now, down in the comments section below, please ask any questions or make any comments while you're watching this video. And then there are also some links in the description box to an article about this process on my website, katieshomeschoolcottage.com, as well as a link to some handouts where I talk about what goes into the outline of a 5-paragraph paper. And that is what you want to start with middle schoolers in learning how to write a proper essay or proper paper. The same thing goes for a high schooler if they haven't learned the minutiae details in how to write a 5-paragraph paper. You want to take a step back and begin going through the details of how to write one of those papers. Then proceed to the more complex essays. And near the end of the video, we'll talk about which essays you would want to move into after the 5-paragraph paper once a child has mastered this kind of format. So the very first step, and it is the most important step, it may not seem like it, is the brainstorming or pre-writing step. This is where your child is going to organize their thoughts. I call it a brain dump. And they take all the thoughts that they know about the topic and write it down on this piece of paper that's going to be your brainstorming or brain dump sheet. Now, you want to start off with a topic that they can sit and talk to you about for like 15 minutes straight without taking a breath, because that they know the topic inside and out. They're passionate and interested in it to where they would be able to talk that long about it. And this way, they're not focusing on, well, what am I going to write about? What do I want to say? Because they know the topic, now they can focus on how do they get it on the paper. So in this brain dumping session, they're going to be organizing their thoughts by pulling out the ideas that they can write about with a topic that they've chosen, put it down on the paper, and here they're using very important, not only pre-writing skills, but thinking skills. And those thinking skills include recalling details, because they're going to be writing those down, weeding out the ones that are important versus unimportant. That's a very important one as well. Summarizing, which is going to be after, they've finished the brain dump and figuring out what information they want to include in the paper. And that is an extremely important skill, as well as word choice and vocabulary use in context, right? So that they know the topic that they're talking about and they're figuring out what words they should use to express that information. Because this 5-paragraph format should be an informative essay where they're informing you about this topic that they know so much about. Now, these skills are going to also be used in the more complex papers as well as they move through high school. And then we're going to be learning some other skills like arguments, words that contain bias or are neutral or objective when you're talking about an argumentative paper or a persuasive paper. And those are all skills that they're going to be using in this brainstorming or pre-writing session. Now, once you've done your brain dump or your pre-writing or brainstorming, that's when you start picking out what information from that brain dump you're going to be using in the paper. And again, that's another important skill that they need to learn. And again, this is all part of writing a paper that you usually don't see. It's usually okay, I'm just going to write about this, and okay, where should I start? All right, I'll start talking about this now. If you have it all on paper in front of you, you can pick out those ideas and start transferring them into your paper. And then you're not going to see that process on the paper, but in the end result, you're going to notice a difference if you've done this process ahead of time. Believe me, trust me, I've worked with so many different kinds of kids where some are writers, some are not writers, some hate writing, some love writing, and this is a very important process that you won't want to skip. Now, the next thing with your outline of your five paragraph paper, and I have in this handout each paragraph and a description of what should be included in those paragraphs. You start off with your introductory paragraph that contains what's called a hook that's going to grab your reader's attention right away. The next thing you want to put in there is the topic sentence, and in other papers, as you progress into more complex ones, we're talking about a thesis statement. But for this simple, informative essay with the 5 paragraphs, when we're starting out, we're going to call it a topic sentence, and that introduces the topic. We also want to pick out what are the 3 mini topics or subtopics that fall under this main topic that we're going to talk about, because those are going to be mentioned in your introductory paragraph, and then those details about each one of those subtopics are going to make up your 3 supporting paragraphs. So you start off with an introductory paragraph, then you have the second paragraph, which is the details about the first subtopic. Then the second subtopic is going to be discussed with details in the 3rd paragraph. And then in the 4th paragraph, you're going to have the 3rd subtopic with details. And remember, they're called supporting paragraphs because they give you more information, but in an organized fashion, about your main topic that you introduced in your introductory paragraph. The 5th paragraph is going to be your concluding paragraph. And in here, you're going to be doing some sort of a recap or restatement of the information in a very quick summary with a closing statement. And the closing statement can take various forms. That includes a question. It could include a call to action. It could include what we call a wow statement, where you're leaving an impression of something that the reader should walk away thinking about, or maybe something that is like a dynamic piece of information or data to leave them impressed by, whatever topic you're talking about, so that maybe they want to go on and learn more about it. So that's the format of your 5 paragraph paper. The next step is to go back, read through, and change your sentences around so that they all, and you'll notice naturally we speak with a subject verb format. So most of your sentences are going to follow that, and they're going to sound very repetitive and maybe even boring. So you want to go back and reword some of those beginnings of those sentences to give it a different kind of sentence beginning. And that's something that you'll have to practice doing and plugging in before it becomes more natural. Then after you've added some sentence variation, then you're going to be doing self-editing, and I usually recommend some sort of a checklist. A lot of errors are going to be overlooked and not caught during the editing process if you're just reading a sentence and looking for everything all at the same time. I usually recommend to students that they do about at least 3 passes, and you are reading through for word choice and comprehension. Is it something that someone would be able to understand, or are the words confusing? So you're looking for clarity. The next pass you might look for spelling and punctuation and capitalization. The next pass you might be looking for maybe more specific grammar, such as verb subject agreement, or pronoun subject agreement, or pronoun verb agreements. More very specific grammar rules. And then once you finish the editing pass, then you would go on to writing the from the rough copy, then you would be going into writing the final copy. So that is the writing process in a nutshell, and what I recommend that you start with. After you've mastered the 5 paragraph paper, I would suggest that in order you move on to a persuasive or argumentative essay, moving on to that in analytical paper where maybe you're analyzing a piece of literature. And again, all of these skills, whether you're going on to college or not, and you need to know how to write the format of the paper, the thinking skills and the communication skills alone are extremely valuable, especially with those 3 essays that I've just mentioned, the 5-paragraph, the persuasive, and the analytical. That will help your student in life, just the thinking skills alone. Forget about the writing the paper, and also as well as their communication skills when they're talking to people and also expressing themselves. The next one I would suggest would be the persuasive paper would be the research paper, and that would be in preparation for college, following the MLA format, APA, or Chicago format. Once they learn how to do those citations, then it would be time to move on to a persuasive paper with citations. And then also practicing narrative and descriptive writing, because most college application questions, if they have one that they want the student to answer, usually follow along the lines of a narrative essay or a descriptive essay. So that would be something that I would suggest if your child is applying to college. And then the last but not least, if they're really interested in literature and they want to study literature or English when they or that you want to really prepare them for English classes in college, then I would look at a literary criticism where they're taking a piece of literature and not just analyzing it like for theme or characters or things like that, but actually criticizing the literature or the piece of literature and writing. And they'll need to know how to do citations with that one as well. But that's a very high level paper. So I hope that you found this really helpful. Remember to like my page, follow along, and click receiving notifications. And please leave me a comment and let me know if you found this helpful or not. And I look forward to having you view the rest of the videos. Check them out in my playlists on my YouTube channel, and maybe you'll find something else that will interest you. Have a great day.